I bring greetings from Ashirwad, a child development initiative in which Anna and myself were involved from its inception in 1983. The coming year happens to be the 40th year since that initiative led us to be involved in starting a child development center at Chennai in 1983. At that time, the Child Development Center was a standalone facility which might have been the first child development center in the country. Subsequently, we enabled a local church, St. Andrew's at Chennai, to begin an activity for children with developmental needs, which since then has flourished to be a full-fledged educational and vocational facility for children from various parts of Chennai. Later, we focused our attention to help a local group of professionals at Nagpur to begin an early learning center, which in the last 30 years has developed into a facility for welcoming children from the peri-urban areas of Nagpur to offer them early educational exposure before school entry. In 1997, the next initiative was to start a developmental pediatrics department at Christian Medical College, Vellore, at the invitation of CMC, which now has just completed its 25th year and is a flourishing unit that caters to the various developmental needs of children. It was during that time the first postdoctoral fellowship in developmental pediatrics for the first time was started. This also happened to be the first developmental pediatrics department in the country at that time. Subsequently, following our retirement from Vellore, we enabled the Pondicherry Institute of Medical Sciences to start a child development facility, which is now also providing services for children from various parts of Pondicherry. For the last 10 years, it has been our pleasure to have been associated with the MOEC Medical College at Kolancherry, where we now have a center which welcomes children from various parts of India and also some from overseas, both for physical consultation and online consultation for child development needs. Over these years, the last 40 years particularly, a question that has been asked of me by parents and professionals is how to start thinking about child development by making a home friendly enough for children to experience encouragement and support for augmenting their child development. I want to pick up the theme for our dialogue, making a home child-friendly. The idea of this concept of making a home child-friendly arose in a significant way after a colleague of mine completed her research leading towards her PhD while I was at Christian Medical College, Velo, in the Developmental Pediatrics Unit. Her thesis was on making children school ready. In her inquiry, she found that the first place where school readiness ought to start is at home, by making a home child-friendly. This theme, making a home child-friendly, would need our attention, and I want to present before you 5 themes that I want us to discuss as we think about this. First, create a physical space. Second, create an emotional space. Third, create a social space. Fourth, create a moral space. And fifth, create a cognitive space. Let me start with creating a physical space. I recall a conversation I heard while at a dining table about a child's desire to have a physical space for himself at home. He had gathered some stones from around the house, some of which looked interesting for anyone because they had shining crystals in them. He placed the stones on the dining table. His father, at dining time, asked him whether he would take it and keep it away. Looking sorrowful, he was quiet for a while and turned to both his parents and said, "Mummy and Daddy, you have your bedroom, you have your office space with tables and chairs, you have your drawing room with television and all the other musical gadgets, you have cupboards and shelves to keep your things. I do not have any of this. Where shall I leave these stones?" It was this conversation that made me realize how much children long to have a space for themselves when they are getting into exploring, understanding, and learning from their experiences. In the department where I work now, uploaded a video some months back focusing on how to create a child's corner at home. A child's corner at home is a space where a child can have a table and a chair, a cupboard, and a few other things, which will then give the place for the child to keep all his belongings, books, toys, craft materials, and also hang the paintings and drawings and clippings that he would have gathered. The physical space that we create for children at home must include such a corner where parents along with their child or children can gather around in order to engage the child, play, have conversation. The physical space becomes a place of significance for the child to grow up with a sense of belonging. Second is create an emotional space. A girl was getting ready to go for the birthday party of her classmate. This 6-year-old girl was got ready by her mother and was made to sit in the room while her mother was getting ready. She asked the mother, "Mummy, can I complete my drawing while you are getting ready?" Mummy said, "You can draw, but avoid using the paint because sometimes paint may drop onto your clothes." This girl, having started to draw, got disinterested and turned to paint the picture that she had started to paint earlier. In the process, she spilled the paint onto her dress. Her mother, having come out of the dressing room with the key in her hands to drive the car and take her to the birthday party, noticed this awful sight of this girl having some paint on her hands, on the dress, and on her face. She, without saying much, took the child back to the dressing room, washed her, and got her ready, and off they went for the birthday party. I was curious about how the mother processed this. When I called her 2 days later, she told me that she decided not to make the birthday party difficult for her and therefore did not talk about it. Till at bedtime that night, this girl offered to say, "Sorry, Mummy, for not listening to you," which gave the mother an opportunity to talk about how sometimes we can avoid doing a few things which can make it difficult. This particular approach which the mother took in consoling her daughter when she had actually trespassed and yet gave her an emotional support, making her ready for the birthday party, amazed me. The mother had a sense of wisdom and understanding of the psychology of a child and waited for an occasion to clarify with her daughter how she can make better choices from now on. The third is about creating a social space. I want to recall here what 6 families did who lived in the same block of apartments where Anna and I lived when we first arrived at CMC Velo in 1997. These young professionals had children varying from 2 years to 8 years. The work schedule of professionals at CMC can be long and tiring, and often most of us returned only by 7, sometimes even late, which meant that if both husband and wife were working, children had to spend their evening hours all by themselves. These families therefore decided that they ought to give their children a special time, at least during weekends, to compensate for their absence during working days. They decided that they would take turns, with one family taking responsibility for the 9 children and give them an experience to go for a picnic, climb a mountain close by, visit a park, go to the science museum, and do other things which would interest them. And this experience made a huge difference to these children. One of them told me that ever since they have these weekends on Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon spent like this, they realized how much their parents cared to provide them what they had missed. This social space that children look for is now sometimes substituted by what we do at home by making children watch television or give the mobile phone them to play with. That does not create social space. What creates social space is to have friends join together to grow by experiencing different explorations that they can do together. I come to the moral space. I have a feeling that most children, when they are still young, are conditioned by what parents say. By the time they are 7, 8 or 9, according to Kohlberg, would develop conscience by which they will be able to develop their own choices with a moral awareness and precise discerning consideration. Up until then, it is what they see, hear and feel about what their parents do that actually make them behave in a particular way. A boy who brought an eraser from the school which did not belong to him was asked by his mother, "Why is that you brought an eraser from the school?" This boy was silent for a minute, lifted his eyes and turned to the mother and said, "Why is Daddy bringing me papers from his office for me to color and paint?" What a shocking response from a child who was just imitating what he saw happening at home. A moral space for children is essential because it is parents' behavior that they would probably imitate and consider as the right thing to do. The fifth is to create cognitive space. A girl was interrupting her mother while she was cooking chapati for evening meal. She asked her, "Mummy, where is this powder from?" Mother said, "It is from a packet that we got from the supermarket." "Where does the supermarket get this powder from?" Mother said, "It is from the wheat that we find in the fields from which the corn is taken and dried and grounded to find this powder." Mother wisely did not stop there. She left making chapati and went back to the encyclopedia and opened the book and showed her how the wheat fields looked, how the wheat corn, and how the wheat corn is finally crushed from the stalk to gather the wheat, which then is dried and powdered. An amazing response of a mother in order to expand the cognitive inquiry of a child, although she was occupied with making chapati for the evening meal. Children ask us questions and sometimes we brush them aside by saying, "Ask me later," or we appear to be not so interested in their inquiry. Every question which a child asks, especially when they are young, below 6 years, would need our creative response, because you are planting seeds of inquiry and information which will be of great value. How do we then therefore make a home friendly for children? Create a physical space, create an emotional space, create a social space, create a moral space, and create a cognitive space. It is when we give children a space for them to belong to in a home, they will grow up as those who will have a voice, who will have a reasoning and inquiring mind. Make home friendly for children by giving them space and offering them a receptivity to their voice. Have a good day.